Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Sox. Ethan and Brandon here again to discuss everything going on with the Boston Red Sox as per usual. Recent things going on around baseball, obviously, are that the All-Star game is coming up in just a couple days from the time of this recording. The All-Star rosters have officially been announced. The Red Sox landed three players on the American League roster. Uh, I'll let Ethan go into who they are in a moment, but there's obviously, it's nice to see the Red Sox get a lot of representation in a year that's been a little topsy-turvy. But there's also some obvious snubs that I think a lot of Red Sox fans rightfully are a little confused why they're not there. So like I said, I'll let Ethan sort of kick it off with the actual roster.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing well, there's two that I think that we're not like extremely surprised about, and one we're like, wow, he's going, which is, So the two that we're really not surprised about, one, of course, is Garrett Crochet. I feel like everybody saw this coming. He had a breakout, season coming to Boston. So it was kind of a no-brainer that he was probably going to get sent up. As for the other two, one is Aroldis Chapman, which if you watch some of our previous videos, we mentioned that Aroldis Chapman was a potential pick. We didn't know if he was going to go, but to see him up on this roster is really great news to just, again, I think he's such a slept on player. But the third and final player that we're going to mention here, and where it's such a what the heck kind of thing because he has the skill, but if you haven't noticed, he's been on the IL for quite some time, is Alex Bregman. So it's got us scratching our heads a little bit. But Brandon, let me get your initial thoughts on these three picks for the All-Star team.
Yeah, I mean, Crochet was perhaps the single most obvious pick among every single player in baseball this year. I mean, he's the ace of the staff. He's been arguably the best pitcher in baseball besides like Tariq Skubal and Paul Skeens. So a no-brainer pick. He's been brilliant this year. His ERA is under like 2.5. He's striking out. I think he leads the league in strikeouts and innings pitched. Just as no-brainer of a pick as it gets. As for Chapman, I think it's also a very similar situation where, like you said, he's been, I think, because of the last few years where he hasn't really been like a dominant closer. I think a lot of people sleep on him nowadays, but he's thrown, he's turned the clock back this year. He's been a dominant force, in the back end of the Red Sox bullpen this year. He's got 15 saves. He's got, an ERA near one. He's striking out a ton of guys. I mean, he looks like the Aroldis Chapman of old, so not a ton of surprise there. But like you said, the big one is Alex Bregman, who prior to being injured, as most Red Sox fans know, was having an MVP caliber season. I mean, he was brilliant. The offense was on fire. He obviously got hurt towards the end of May, and he's been missing in action for the last 6 weeks. So again, it's really awesome to see him there. I think the production when he was on the field was, he deserves it. It's just one of those things where it's like when you miss like half of the first half of the season, it almost feels like he didn't play enough to get to that point. But again, obviously he was when he was healthy, one of the best players in the entire American League. So in that sense, he absolutely deserves the nod.
Yeah, I mean, it is a point to say that he is in the reserves right now within the lineup. He's not starting on third base. That'll be Jose Ramirez from Cleveland. So again, it makes a little bit of sense of like, look, he's coming off of the IL, so they don't immediately, excuse me, want to slap him back onto the baseball field. At the same time, again, there's a part of me as a baseball fan in general and as a Red Sox fan to say, I wish if he is this healthy as, let's say a doctor says he is, that he can go play in the All-Star game. I would have wished we got to see a little bit more of him play, in Boston for a little bit before we send him to the All-Star game. But it is what it is. I'm very excited to see it too. And again, the lineup of people, let's say that he gets thrown in, to have people like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we talked about the potential of seeing Alex Bregman and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the corners of the diamond. I mean, what a team up here. Am I wrong?
No, and this is what makes the All-Star game so great, even in this modern era where, it doesn't really matter for anything. I think players obviously treat it a little bit more like an exhibition than in, the years past, and especially back in like the 70s and 80s when, Pete Rose was, bowling over catchers and everything. But I think it's a really strong group that's heading from Boston. Getting three representatives is nothing to scoff at, especially in a year where they haven't been like this dominant force of a team. But that all being said, obviously, as we said earlier, and as Ethan and I have been talking a lot about off camera, there's obviously some snubs here. The Red Sox have a really strong roster. And that means that just necessarily that there's going to be some guys that don't get the love that they deserve. I think the most obvious snub is Carlos Narvaez at catcher. He's had a great rookie season. He's going to be a serious AL Rookie of the Year competitor. It's just the case that, in the American League, Cal Raleigh from Seattle, who's having who might win MVP as a catcher, which is amazing, is going to be the starter. And then Alejandro Kirk from Toronto is having a great season as well for a really good Blue Jays team. So it's one of those things where, these guys get crowded out. Cedane Rafaela is sort of in the same boat where he's obviously more of a great defender than a great hitter, but he's had a great season. Willie Abreu's in the same boat. So it's one of those things where it's like you can get upset about a lot of these guys, especially Narvaez, in my opinion, about they should probably be there, celebrating the festivities in a Red Sox uniform. But again, the American League is loaded. It's not a slight to these players that they didn't go, and overall, it's just snubbing is just how all this works. So,
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
go
sorry to
ahead.
interrupt you, but I will say again, we've been in the fourth place slot for a while. We've been in kind of a rough patch, but again, like you said, sending three players up in general, and I'm just going to shout out my other favorite team here. Baltimore only got one player. So I think that we should be proud that we're sending three very good, very talented players to this game. But at the end of the day, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this matter. Do you think other players got snubbed? Do you think that the lineup that they chose is a good lineup? We'd love to hear your comments and all of your thoughts in the comment section below.